So it's like this really nostalgic, lovely memory, but like just deep inside him, there's something that is like not quite right. And so he goes somewhere else, and all of a sudden he's like rat racing it, and he's around the place, and he's traveling, and he's working, he's touring, he's doing all these things. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Dr. Nick Analyzes. Today we are going to go for another Bob Seger number called Against the Wind. A common theme comes up in the comments of my Bob Seger videos, which is one, that he's got a great voice and a great charisma when he's performing, but two is that he's, and I quote these words, a master storyteller. I've had people say he's got lots and lots and lots of songs that touch on the human experience and the human condition in really clever and wonderful ways in the way that he tells stories. And so it makes me excited at this moment to watch this because you know, you've built him up so much, and is the two other songs that I've reacted to have been brilliant. And so I'm hoping for something equally brilliant today. Hope you like what I go for. Come on, Bob.
Seems like yesterday, but it was long ago. Jane, it was lovely, she was the queen of my night. There in the darkness with the radio playing low, and the secrets that we shared, mountains that we moved, caught like a wildfire out of control, till there was nothing left to burn and nothing left to prove. And I remember what she said to me, how she swore that it never would end. I remember how she held me oh so tight. Wish I didn't know now what I didn't know then. Against the wind, we were running against the wind. We were young and strong, we were running against the wind. The years rolled slowly past. I found myself alone, surrounded by strangers I thought were my friends. Found myself further and further from my home, and I guess I lost my way. There were oh so many roads. I was living to run and running to live, never worried about paying or even how much I owe. Moving 8 miles a minute for months at a time, breaking all of the rules that would bend. I began to find myself searching for shelter again and again.
think I've pressed pause there now. Good. Whoa. I mean, it felt as though the last two Bob Seger songs that I've listened to, they covered similar themes, right? It feels as though Bob Seger, um, he's like, I think he's got a crisp idea of time, and what a hard thing that is to accept as a human being. The fact that we have experiences and time happens and we can't go back and have those experiences again. And so often his songs like touch upon that, but his previous songs, they've been more, I know they've been like more impassioned and more upbeat, I would say. Whereas this song, it had sort of like more of a sad or melancholic feel to it. And it got me wondering, sort of like, what's the point of the song? Like these words against the wind, like what does he really, what's he really saying here? What does he really mean? And so, like, when I interpret them, I'm interpreting them from my own experience and my own understanding of what's meant by those words. And they might not actually be anything to do with what was actually meant by the song. So I'll give you my interpretation of it. And if you know that the actual song is about something else, then write it in the comments. So he starts off about saying a long time ago he was with this girl Janie, and and she said that it would never end. And so he's like looking nostalgically back across time, and then he said that he, in the second like verse almost, he moved to this place where he was moving 8 miles a minute for a really long time. He was like traveling around the place and he lost his sense of home. And then the third bit, it sounded like he found himself home, but he was still running against the wind. So like the thing that struck out to me is that we as a species, we often um, we're in a particular place. Let's say he's like with this girl, he's living like this like stress-free life, and then there's something that he feels not satisfied with. So maybe it's a little bit boring, for example. So he feels like not satisfied with this. So it's like this really nostalgic, lovely memory, but like just deep inside him, there's something that is like not quite right. And so he goes somewhere else, and all of a sudden he's like rat racing it, and he's around the place, and he's traveling, and he's working, he's touring, he's doing all these things. And like, again, he has like these really nostalgic memories, these really lovely sort of like memories of what that is, and those an appreciation of those experiences. And he reaches a point where something's not quite right, and the thing that wasn't quite right for him was he missed home. He like felt like he'd got lost in some ways, and so then he returned home, and for a while, I'm assuming he had peace and he found contentment within there. And then he found that home was commitments and, various other chores, the chores that come with life. And he's saying, I'm older now and I'm still running against the wind. And so I think maybe the melancholy of the song comes from the fact that we can't win. We always are in a place, feel all right for a while, get restless about some aspect of that environment, and move, and then we move, and then we move, and we always reach a point where it's getting windy, and then we're running against the wind again, and we're having to change things up. At least like that's what resonates with my own life. And I'm thinking that specifically with being with kids, like sometimes, like my own house, it's such a place of peace and contentment and safety for me. And if I spend too much time in there, I go stir crazy in my head. And so sometimes we'll go on holiday, not because we want to see what's in the location of our holiday, but because we want to come back to our house and feel that sense of peace again, that sense of sort of like safety and love of being in that space. And so that's what I mean about winning, about, how to win, and how like no matter what context you find yourself in, there's going to be parts about that context that work and are enjoyable, and there's going to be parts of that context that don't work, and then you end up moving. You end up sort of like moving on to a new context when you feel restless or when you feel like you're running against the wind a little bit too much. But I think like the thing that gets me is that while we are doing that, while we are always looking to the next thing, we're not entrenched in the present moment. And so you think about what mindfulness is. Mindfulness is a bit of a fad within like clinical psychology and psychology generally. And so because it's a fad, now it's picking up some negative connotations and whatnot, and making people um, pretty resistant to it. But at heart, it just means entrenching oneself in the present moment and the beauty of the present moment. And like the present moment, like moments are moving so quickly, time is moving so quickly, that to be able to every now and then be able to pause and appreciate the how lucky we are and how wonderful it is to be in that present moment. I don't know, I think that that's so useful for our well-being, and it's so useful for us to know in the future when we look back across our time, we don't see someone that was just bouncing from one thing to the next, constantly trying to deal with restlessness, but somebody that took the moment to savor what was in front of them. Yesterday, my 2-year-old, my son, my 9-year-old came down the stairs, and my 2-year-old said, "Maxi, hug." And my 2-year-old went up to my 9-year-old, and they embraced and they hugged each other. And like it was, it kicked me into, it startled me into the present moment. Do you know what I mean? Like an appreciation of what a beautiful moment that is. And I wish I could have that more. That like savoring of moments, knowing that those moments aren't coming back, and knowing that one day in the future I'm gonna want to have appreciated those moments, appreciated being in the present moment, whilst also appreciating the trickiness of life and how we're often feeling restless and trying to move on, and therefore it feels like we're always running against the wind. You know what, later on I'll probably have more thoughts about like what was meant by that, because there's real depth to like the lyrics there and to the story that's being told and to the why of the song. um and so, yeah, I wonder what will pop into my head later on. But for now, another really thought-provoking song by Bob Seger. It felt different, had a different quality to it than the other songs that I had that I'd listened to, but still with those similar themes of time and the loss of time, and maybe some of the more difficult aspects of life. But yeah, there you go. Thanks for suggesting it, and thanks for listening. And I hope you like what I went for. Bye bye. What do you reckon about Against the Wind? Have you heard of this song before?
I haven't, but luckily the lyrics were on screen,
Yeah,
so it
of course. Yeah,
really,
yeah, yeah,
really helped me.
yeah, yeah. Actually, look, I didn't even pick up on that. What did you think of the music video of it?
I
Do you
don't
know
think
what I
it's
mean?
the original.
It's not the
I don't.
official
I
one, is
think
it?
it's the lyric video. I think there is another official video, but the thing with Bob Seger and his videos, not every song has
Yeah. Okay.
an
Yeah.
official
Yeah.
video
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he's written so much.
Yeah. So you saw the lyrics then?
I saw the
What were you
lyrics.
thinking?
Against the Wind. It wasn't until what I find the word is empathy
Yeah.
that I find when I listen to, because he'll say something and I'll go, "Oh, I had a girlfriend like that.
Yeah.
And we thought it was going to be,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah. Yeah.
didn't."
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, there's certain things, and I'm like, you'll say about, oh, coming home and life has got deadlines. And I'm like,
Yeah.
work,
Yeah.
family. And,
Yeah.
there's micro moments of the lyrics. And then I instantly go from the song then to a memory of me
Yeah.
and then back. But I also picked up then on what you said about being present in the moment.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, that is really, really true, because we don't exist where we are right now. We're
Yeah.
always looking
Yeah. I
to the
like that
future.
way. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I was like, that is Scrooge.
Yeah. I know it is Scrooge. Yeah. Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
Scrooge,
Yeah.
because we're constantly either looking back at what we had,
Yeah.
we're constantly looking forward,
Yeah. We're time hopping. Yeah.
time hopping
Yeah.
between, and we exist more in those spaces
Yeah.
than we ever
Correct.
do.
Yeah.
And then it's a vicious cycle there, because we do come back home and we do come back to
Yeah.
ourselves. And when we go, oh crap, we got
Yeah.
things like that
Yeah.
dependent on us now. And then we go back, well,
Yeah.
what's next? And we tend to compress and expand.
Yeah.
But
I wonder if there's like almost maybe the message of a part of the message of the song there is about the acceptance of the fact that the wind is always going to be there in some shape or form,
yeah,
no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, the stresses and strains, the restlessness, some of the harder things about being a human being, they're always going to be there. Maybe it's about making peace with the wind, or having the wind, or accepting that the wind is part of it, and trying to anchor ourselves in the moments that we can savor. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that as if you accept that life is difficult, you manage life a lot better.
Yeah.
So the wind doesn't feel as
Yeah.
strong, but there's always going to be
Yeah,
wind.
so
There's
in some
always
ways
going to be
it's like
resistance.
it's like managing expectations. It's like saying to
Mm,
people, manage your expectations here. Because every time you change something up, you go in there with like these high hopes that this is it now, peace and contentment forever, and that doesn't exist.
no,
Do you know what I mean? So maybe that's part of the message of it. But there's a Lush song I really like. I really like him. I love his voice, but also like the people that have left comments and stuff. He's just such a really good storyteller.
yeah,
So you're wrapped into the story of it, like so easily. I'm so easily
yeah.
wrapped into, oh, this happened and then this happened and then this
Yeah,
happened.
it
You
was
know what
just
I mean?
empathy. That's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
when I was listening or reading the lyrics, I was just like, oh, I really empathize with that. I really
yeah,
empathize because
yeah,
even though he's a lot older than me,
yeah,
he has a way of storytelling that is
yeah,
very relevant to
yeah.
the points in people's
Do you know,
life that crosses.
yeah, so there's a famous psychologist within the act world. His name's Kelly Wilson, and he's as close to a guru as you're going to get within the act world. And in act, this is the type of therapy that I research. Um, they you can't have gurus. Why? Because it comes from the perspective that all people are a product of their experience. And so if someone is doing well, then it's their experience that allowed them to be in a place where they can do well, right? So no such thing as a guru, but he's as close as you're gonna get. He's like long grey hair, does yoga, like deep South American accents and stuff. And he once said to me, what's most personal is most general. What's most personal. So he said, if like something has touched you, then chances are it touches other people as well.
Mm,
And I think that's what he does in his songs.
very.
He says stuff that's specific to him, but it's likely to land with you and land with you and land with you and land with you, because what's most personal is also most general. We've all had those
Mm,
experiences with, young partners or whatnot. Like, so a lot of us can, like you say, empathize or can relate to the things that he's saying, because what's most personal, a lot of our experiences are so similar. All right, good. Okay, let's move on. Last one.